Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Atticus Partners. My name's Charlie Napier, one of the co-founders, and I'm joined today by Lionel Zetter, one of our senior counsel. We've just been listening to the King's speech at the state opening of Parliament and wanted to give you a quick idea of what His Majesty was saying in the King's speech and what this means more wider for politics and dare we say, the state of the Conservative Party. The King has literally just left Parliament, so now is a good time to quickly digest what's actually happened in the speech. As I said, I'm joined by Lionel, who has just told me this is probably pretty much close to the 50th King's speech, or Queen's speech. Obviously it's the first King's speech for 70 years that he has been listening into. So Lionel, I'm going to start off with asking you the obvious question. How was it? Do you think that Rishi, obviously the King's speech is actually really the government speech read out by the King, but do you think that the content of it and what will happen over the next few weeks, months and probably a year to the next election will really make a change or a difference to how, to the fortunes of the Conservative Party and the current government?
Well, thanks, Charlie. I mean, the first thing I would say is that governments are often accused of one or two shortcomings when it comes to the King's speech. Either there are too few bills, in which case they've run out of ideas, or there are too many, in which case they are busybodies and they're tinkering. So the benchmark is very often 20 bills. I think we have 21 in this, which is a pretty good number. And then bear in mind, of course, we have 7 bills that were carried over from the previous session. So it's going to be a pretty busy session. Whether it will move the dial or not, I very much doubt. I don't think King's speeches or Queen's speeches actually do that. I think the purpose of the legislative programme in this case is to, from the government's point of view, from Rishi's point of view, to demonstrate that he has got the long-term prospects of the party and the government and the country in mind. I think he's driving some wedge issues with Labour, which you will see a lot more of in 2 weeks' time with the autumn statement. And there's an element of populism, which obviously any government will grasp for. But, you know, it's good, it's solid, but I don't think it will move the dial.
Just on those wedge issues, what do you think are the real wedge issues here? Because I was interested by Labour before the speech came out, and rather than attacking any of the issues particularly, just said this was the speech of a sort of tired and out of touch government, you know, who basically need to move on. But it feels that there's quite a few things in there that they would agree on. What do you think will be the areas they will disagree on, which will sort of be the good messaging in the lead up to an election in a year's time or so?
I think green issues, or what David Cameron referred to as green crap. Basically, they've been preparing this for several months, not just on the basis of the result in Uxbridge, where the Tories surprisingly held onto the seat, but it goes way back beyond that. Last May last year, the Conservatives made some surprise gains in London, in my own patch in particular, on the basis that they campaigned against low traffic neighbourhoods. You now have the prospect of ULEZ in London, which I think will be another main issue, but they're also walking away from things which punish ordinary people, like having to change your gas boiler, on the ludicrous basis that a country that generates less than 1% of carbon emissions can somehow move the dial globally when the Chinese and the Indians and the Americans are churning out in times more than us. So I think that will be a real wedge issue. And of course the government, as the words were put in the King's mouth, they said they will do all this, there will be new oil and gas licenses, but at the same time we will still meet our net zero targets, which, let's face it, is way beyond the life of this government or the next one, or probably the one after.
Yeah, sounds like it could be hard. There are other interesting things around crime and punishment, some of which were, well, as they say, some of the things that weren't in the bill, such as some of Suella Braverman's, dare I say, attacks on the homeless in the last few days. There's other stuff about sentencing and so on. Do you think that'll have an impact more widely?
I think so, because, you know, people experience crime in many different ways, but if you have the misfortune to live in a a deprived area, you are much more likely to experience crime than you are if you live in a middle class or wealthier area. So yes, I think that will go down well. The Tories need to buttress their support in the Red Wall as much as they can. Antisocial behaviour is a huge issue up there. And of course there will now be an attempt to begin to tackle online crime, which is currently, I think, getting upwards of 40% of all reported crime.
Yeah, I mean, all the stuff, I guess, to be fair, Labour will probably support as well. So you feel that, whether that can, as you say, change the dial and, prevent this or eat into this 20-point lead for the Conservatives, for Labour, we will see. I mean, the other things, interesting things, we talked about the longer sentences on the crime stuff. Football regulators has been introduced. I suspect that'll have a bit of cut through come the time, depending on what it looks like. Smoking ban, very contentious, and restrictions on vaping, but none of which seem very sort of wedge-like issues, and I think a lot of which will really seem to the probably general public like, sort of quite radical, but nothing to make them think, oh, I'm definitely going to vote Conservative. Anyway, thank you, Lionel. I think we'll leave it there. That was just a very quick, short, off-the-cuff thought and analysis of the King's Speech, having just watched it over the last few minutes. As a company, we'll be doing further analysis, which we'll no doubt be putting out on Twitter and other social media. But thank you for listening, and if you would like to hear a little bit more about it, then do get in touch. All the contact details are fairly obvious on the website and so on. But yeah, thank you again, and have a good rest of the day.